before we begin, let me introduce Saumya. So she said, "Hi, my name is Saumya Mutatkar." Did I say that right, Saumya? Yes, no.
Yes, you did.
Okay. I'm 17 and I'll be going to UC Riverside for political science and international affairs. I want to talk about my journey of going into a major outside of STEM and how I had to work hard to find opportunities that would benefit me in college on my own, especially because the Bay Area is so STEM oriented. All right, without further ado, let me stop screen sharing and give it off to Saumya.
Okay, hi guys, my name is Saumya. So, I'm just gonna go through the questions that I was told to answer, and then, as Yadro said, whatever questions you guys have later, I can answer. So the first one was oh, tell us about your story and what my journey was to get where I am now. So like everybody else, going into high school was definitely a new experience. I had to figure out oh, how am I gonna make friends? How am I gonna fit into my classes and stuff like that? And then I think the biggest thing was staying focused on school and balancing high school and extracurriculars. That was the first thing, first struggle that I had, balancing all my time. Because before high school, I was used to always having extra time to do my extracurriculars and stuff like that. How did I know that I wanted to pursue the major that I decided to go into? I joined leadership, I think, in 4th grade in student council. And since then, I've been in leadership almost every single year up until senior year. So I think my love for leadership was one of the reasons I wanted to go into a career where I would be working with other people, to make a difference on the global or national level. And I've always been super vocal about current issues that are going on and participating in activism and stuff like that. And actually I did a few internships during high school that convinced me to go more into the international affairs. So I helped Rokana with his campaign my freshman year. And then I did a few other leadership internships, which really propelled my love for political science. Some things that I liked the most about high school, other than friends, of course, and having fun and stuff like that, I think was being able to build relationships with people and teachers, and also build finding myself. I think one advantage that I had was I connected with a few teachers on campus. So I, all 4 years I had somebody to talk to and ask questions and find opportunities. And then definitely the clubs and the sports and stuff like that. I founded a few clubs on campus. I was in track and field for 3 years. And then just being able to branch out, meet new people, make relationships was definitely a memorable part of high school. One thing that I struggled with in high school was struggling to balance schoolwork and outside life, deciding, oh, what was priority? What should I study for a test, or should I go hang out with a friend for an hour or two? So that was one of the hardest things. And the pressure to, I guess, fit in high school was always a little difficult. Being true to yourself and also fitting into different friend groups is always something that's challenging. But I really learned that, you're going to find friends that have similar interests to you, no matter where you find them. You're going to find them in your classes, you're going to find them in clubs and stuff like that. Some advice that I would give to incoming high school students would be, don't stress too much about just your GPA or your test scores, or how well you're doing in a class, or how many advanced classes you're taking. That is very important for the college application process, but high school is your time to enjoy yourself. You're gonna have less and less time once you get older, especially in college. So high school is really the time for you to figure out what your interests are. Join multiple clubs, even if you don't have any friends in them and stuff like that. just your time to like branch out and like meet a lot of different people that you normally wouldn't if you're just too focused on academics and stuff like that. And definitely stepping out of your comfort zone to try new things. Even if you have never watched a football game, you should go watch a football game one time, or like a soccer game or something. You know, you'll meet new friends, you'll be able to enjoy like high school a lot more, like going to the dances and stuff like that. One thing that I wish somebody told me before high school uh, is high school is only stressful if you make it stressful. If you go into high school with the mindset that no, like I'm gonna be happy with what grades I get, with what test scores I get, with like the college that I get into, then you're gonna go in with a lot less like stress on your mind rather than, oh, I have to get the highest grade here. I have to, you know, do well on this test or else I'm not gonna, you know, pass the class or something like that. Like it is important to stay focused on your academics, but it's also important to realize that if you're putting in your like full effort, the results that you get are going to be the best results. Like forcing yourself to stress out over something that you don't have much control over is going to ruin your 4 years in high school. So stay like stress free, even though it's hard, like from experience, like balancing classes and electives and stuff like that is difficult sometimes. But if you're going into high school thinking whatever happens in high school I'll be proud of, then it's a lot easier to get through the 4 years. um, some college application tips that I have would be starting early on your college applications. It does take a long time to go through like the essays and the questions and stuff like that. Oftentimes, like you write something, you think it's good, and then you want to go back and revise it. So start as soon as possible, as soon as the application opens, just so you have a little bit of like time to breathe before the deadline. And then the name of the college isn't everything. Even if you go to a college that isn't the highest ranking in the country, it doesn't matter. It's what you decide to do in college that really makes a difference. If you're going to put in the effort, if you're going to work hard, and you're going to graduate from any, like in the college that you get into, you're going to get a good job. You're going to be able to succeed in your career. If you're too focused on um, like the name of the school or the prestige of the school, it doesn't matter if you get in if you don't do well in that college. Um, Also, look into colleges that are helping you for your major. So, as a political science major, a lot of colleges that a lot of my friends applied to were crossed off my list because they didn't offer a good political science program or a good international relations program for me. So, you should be more focused on which college is going to provide the best like education for your major, and you have to factor in a lot of other things. Are you comfortable living with the weather in that college? Are you comfortable living in a small town, like where you don't see anything except the college for like a 10-mile radius? Are you okay with the people that you're going to college with? Sometimes people prefer going to an all girls or an all boys college or a religious college. So you really have to determine if you're going to fit in well into the college, because even though academics are important, you are spending 4 years of your life alone there. So it's really important for you to go to a campus where you're going to feel like you fit in and that you're like happy being on that campus. Um, my schedule in high school, I actually did not take a lot of advanced or like AP classes. I took AP World History my sophomore year. I was in honors English junior year, and then I had 3 AP senior year. Um, I made up for it by taking community college courses over the summer, which I would recommend because they do give you dual credit. So you're getting college credit, getting a little ahead for the next 4 years, and you're getting, I believe, a weighted GPA in high school also. So I wouldn't get too caught up on like taking too many advanced classes. I know that it varies based on schools, but most schools do have AP limits. You shouldn't try to push yourself to, you know, reach the limit every year. And you should take AP classes and advanced courses in subjects that you're interested in or you're going to pursue in college. Like I knew since sophomore year that I wasn't going into a STEM field, so I didn't take like AP Physics or AP Calculus. I stayed away from like subjects that I wasn't interested in or that I wasn't going to pursue. Um, because like at the end of the day, like if you're not interested in the class that you're taking, you're not going to do well in the class. Like you're going to force yourself to learn the material, you're not going to be interested in it, so it's going to be really hard for you to like maintain a high grade in the class if you're not interested in it. I wanted to talk a little bit about like going into a non-STEM major, um, especially in the Bay Area where everything is so advanced around us, like in terms of technology and stuff like that. Going into political science as a major was definitely like a bit difficult for me, just because I didn't have a lot of people to talk to that had also gone into that major. So I didn't really know like how somebody had applied or like which colleges they particularly applied to or which internships they did or which community service. And I think that's something that like is prominent in a lot of Bay Area schools where kids who go into STEM majors are often supported more like unintentionally by schools than others are. I was just talking about the other day where high schools often promote like coding classes and Python classes, but they never promote like art workshops or dance classes or political internships or stuff like that. Um, so it was definitely a bit difficult for me. I was lucky. My parents were very supportive of the major that I was going into. My mom actually helped me find the first political like internship that I did with Rokana, where I helped with his campaign, and then did like community service with him afterwards. Um, I think that's like one thing where if you're going into a major that's outside of STEM, it's really important for you to find extracurriculars that like help you with your major, because a lot of schools don't always offer the classes that you want to pursue that major. Um, and like I think if you're interested in something, don't worry about the salary that you're going to have when you get a job in that career, or if you're going to get a job in like a prestigious place or not. I think if you're really interested in a major, STEM or non-STEM, you should go for it, because again, like it's something that you're going to do for the rest of your life. So it should really be something that you're interested in doing and not something that you're just looking into because it'll, support you later on. It's definitely important to look into careers that um, are stable, are supportive, that are going to help you in the future. But it's also important to note that if you're going to be working in a career for the rest of your life, it should be a career that you're interested in and that you're passionate about. Political science was always something that I was extremely passionate about. I um, started the Model United Nations Club on campus. I did a lot of JSA workshops and stuff like that. So it was really about like finding opportunities where I would meet other people that had the same interests as me, and that would educate me and prepare me for the major that I was going into for college. Yeah, so that's all I had like on questions wise. So
All right, yeah, definitely. So thank you for that like informative like presentation and like Q&A period. So right now we have questions that students submitted via a separate form, and let me read some out to you. So one question was, what can you do with your degree?
so I'm hoping to get a master's in international relations after my bachelor's degree. But I'm looking into more of the United Nations side of the degree instead of like the law side. A lot of my friends go take political science, but then they go more into the law side, so they become lawyers and stuff like that. Or a lot of them go into the political side, which is like running for office or something like that. So actually, one of the teachers on campus, Ms. Kaur, she's an English teacher at MHS. She worked in a United Nations office, and she was the first person that told me, "Oh, you can get a job like that. You could work in an embassy with a different country and still be in the U.S., or you could travel to that country and work in the U.S. embassy there." and stuff like that. So that's definitely like more of the career that I was leaning towards, but there are a lot of careers. Political scientists are very popular in campaigns, especially like presidential campaigns and like congressional campaigns, because they're the ones that analyze the data and, you know, tell the campaigners, okay, this is the strategy that you should have. This is how you're going to appeal to a majority of the population. So there's like three main ways you could go. You could go campaign wise, like politician wise, you could go law, or you could go international, like into the UN or something.
All right, cool. So one more question was, another question was, why UC Riverside? Like compared to other schools, why'd you apply there? And yeah.
UC Riverside actually has a very good College of Social Sciences, which was one of the reasons that I chose it. It's unique because, unlike some other UCs, it has an entire college dedicated to just humanities, arts, and social sciences. So it's not grouped together with math or like the other sciences that there are. So it's very focused on social sciences. So mostly the majors that are in the college are like psychology majors, sociology majors, and like political science majors. So I definitely looked into it for the program. I did apply to a lot of CSUs that also offered me very good programs. So most of the colleges that I applied to, I looked at, okay, are they offering me internships? So like Sacramento State has a semester of working in the Capitol building if you apply for the internship. UC Riverside and other UCs have like quarters and years that you can study abroad. So you can pick a country, you know, that you're interested in working with, and you could go study over there. You're like offered a lot of languages that you can take to broaden like your scope and stuff like that. So I looked into UC Riverside and some other UCs based off of like what they were offering me for my major.
All right, cool. Another one we had was, this one's like sort of advice, but how should we choose our major wisely? Like, and also how easy is it to switch majors once you are accepted?
So it's definitely getting harder to switch your major just because so many people like now apply at the college that you want to go to. So it's hard to switch from like a social science major to a STEM major. Like you could switch in like in your department, but it's harder to switch like between the colleges. You should choose your major. I think the first thing you should do is decide what you don't like. That's always a lot easier. So I knew since freshman year that, okay, math and science, like math especially, wasn't as interesting to me as was like humanities or like world history. So I knew, okay, I'm going to look into a major that I won't have to really focus too much on math or science on. So then like that narrows it down a little. So first you should find out what you don't like to do, and then when you figure out what you're interested in, you should take a lot of courses that are based off of that like topic of interest, which is also why I recommend taking like community college courses, because I got to take sociology and psychology and like an intro to political science like in the community college. So that like gave me a basic of an understanding of, okay, this is what I'm going to be looking into at college. These are the classes that I have to take. So start off with what you don't like and then start narrowing down what you are interested in.
Definitely. So I know this one, like you don't have the definite answer and everything, but someone asked, why do you think UC Riverside accepted you and other schools accepted you too?
I'm going to be honest, I didn't have a high SAT score, like, and my GPA was good, but it wasn't great. So I definitely looked into like colleges that you know would accept me with. Colleges do usually have a scale of like the SAT scores that they accept or the GPA scores that they accept. So I did definitely look into that. Um, and also I think UC Riverside is definitely a newer UC. It's a newer campus. So I think they're still trying to like determine what they're well known for. So I think it was a bit easier to get into a social science college there because they're still trying to determine like what they're going to excel at. So usually like Berkeley and LA is very STEM oriented. Like LA's medical college is excellent. So most kids go there for their medical college. So I think that definitely had like was an advantage for me. But at the end of the day, like college application process, like it's so random. Like it really just depends on the person who's reading your application. It depends how far along you are in their stack of applications. It's just a completely random process at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. So we had a question in the chat, and then the question was, which colleges did you apply to? And then like my sort of twist on it is like, if you want, can you tell like which one you got accepted to and denied?
Yeah. So I applied to mostly California colleges. What I did was I sat with a family member who had done the application process before, and I separated my colleges into three categories. Dream colleges. So those are colleges, you know, low acceptance rates, maybe 3-4% acceptance rates. Prestigious colleges. You know, you're not going to get into them, but you still want to apply. And then there are the reach, like the target colleges, where you have a good chance of getting into them, and these are the colleges that you're interested in like going to if you get accepted. And then your safety colleges, where you know that you're going to get in like for sure. And if you don't get into your reach colleges, these are the colleges that are good colleges, and then those are your backup ones. So I applied to 4 CSUs: San Diego State, Long Beach, Cal Poly Pomona, and then Sacramento State. And I got into all of them except San Diego State. And then UCs, I applied to 3. I applied to Irvine, Davis, and Riverside, and I got into Riverside. And then I applied to University of Washington, which I did get accepted into. And then I applied to liberal arts colleges. So I applied to one that offered me like a really good scholarship. And the advantage of a liberal arts college for me would have been, you know, like it's completely focused on my major. Like every single course there is for a liberal art. But the disadvantage of that was it was a campus of barely 1,000 students.
Mm-hmm.
So it just would have been a completely different environment for me. And then my dream schools were George Washington University and then Pomona University, which I didn't get into. But those are 2 colleges that like I'm looking to now pursue for my master's. So I think that's one thing that I would advise is like your dream colleges could be possible in the future. So even if you get accepted into a college that maybe you didn't want, like wasn't necessarily at the top of your list, if you have a good GPA there, if you do well and you graduate, you could definitely do your master's in a better college that you're more interested in.
Definitely. So one question I had personally was, so you talked about your college and everything. For college essays, do you believe that the students should write about themselves personally and their experience, like write their own narrative, focus like the essay specifically on their major, like write essay topics about their major, or both? Like, what do you believe?
Um, so I think definitely the biggest part of it would be colleges already have their own like prompt majority of the time. So like for UCs, you have to answer 4 out of 8 personal insight questions. But I would pick prompts that you can write well about. Personal experiences are a good thing, but you don't want them to like accept you only because you have like a personal experience that would be maybe considered like unfortunate or like that you struggle through. So you should write about that stuff because that is, you know, a part of who you are. That's what shaped your high school experience. But you should also definitely write about prompts that brag about you. It's like it's a little awkward when you first start writing college essays because it's just me. Like what I did this, I did that, you know, I'm good at this, I'm good at that. So I think like the biggest part of it is choose the prompts that you know you have a lot to write on. So like for my liberal arts colleges, my prompts were political prompts. So I got to write about like a political topic that interested me. So that was easy because that's something that I was passionate about and I had a lot of thought about. But then one of like my University of Washington prompts was, oh, like describe an experience that changed who you were. So like I really had to think like, okay, what in my life has shaped who I am today? So I think it really depends on like the colleges. Personal insight questions at UCs are usually a lot more about yourself, like, oh, a skill that you have, a talent that people don't know about, and stuff like that. So it comes down to the college, but I would choose the prompts that you're most comfortable writing about and that you have the most to write about, even if they're not popular prompts.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there were two questions in the chat. The first question was, what extracurriculars did you do or recommend for high school students? And yeah, that one first. Let's start with that one.
Okay, I would say if you are an athlete, you should stay in the sport that you're interested in. Make time for that sport. Not only, it does look good on your college applications, but it is also a stress reliever outside of school, doing like a sport that you like. I did, so I did something called Agents of Change, which is uh, uh, an organization of high school students that does like community service throughout the Bay Area. So that was definitely something that helped me with get my community service, and it was something that I later became um, like a leader of. So I got a lot of experience as like in a higher position. I would say community service is always a really good extracurricular to do. Not only because it puts hours on your sheet, but also you're making a big impact in your community, especially like right now, like doing even small things like delivering groceries and stuff like that is very helpful. So I would say community service is one. Major like related extracurriculars are always good. So if you're going into STEM and you want to be a coder, take coding classes, right? Do coding workshops and stuff like that. There are a lot of clubs on campus that give you opportunities um, based on your major or like based on community service. And then like any instrument that you're playing, any interesting extracurricular you have, if you have the time for it, I think you should do it.
Definitely. So another question in the chat was, which 4UC prompts did you choose and how did you decide what you wanted to write about?
I wrote my applications in like September, October, so I don't really remember all of them. One of the ones that I did write about was the like a talent that you have that not many people know about, like a skill. And I talked a little bit about like my art, and because that was something that I couldn't really talk about in anywhere else in my application, but it was something that was important to me, like, and shaped who I was as a high school student. If you give me like a second, I could pull up which prompts that I did.
Yeah, take your time.
Okay, so one of the ones that I did was describe an example of your leadership experience in which you have positively influenced others, helped resolve disputes, or contributed to group efforts over time. So this was one of the first ones that I chose very easily because I knew I could write a lot about it, being a leadership student in high school. So like that's what I was saying, like, oh, look at prompts that you have a solid like experience to write about. So I wrote a little bit about like an event that I started on campus, with like, and I talked about, oh, so it was difficult for me to figure out how to do this, or it was my first time leading such a big event, so I had to deal with failures along the way and stuff like that. Um, the second prompt that I did was every person has a creative side and it can be expressed in many ways. Problem solving, original and innovative thinking, and artistically, to name a few. Describe how you express your creative side. So I talked about my art, like how I sold a few pieces, how I was, working on stuff on the side, how I was journaling and stuff like that. So I talked a little bit about that. And then I also talked about how like art was kind of therapeutic to me and how it helped me like in high school. And then The third one was, what have you done to make your school or your community a better place? So again, this was something that I had a lot to write about because I did community service with an organization that focused a lot on the community. So I talked about an immigration program that I was working on in the summer, where we basically worked with an organization called Siren, and it was like an informational little workshop for immigrants, like, oh, where are the best places to eat for kids or hang out, or where can you find jobs, like who's hiring, like public transportation and stuff like that. And then my fourth one was, what would you say is your greatest talent or skill? How have you developed and demonstrated that talent over time? And I talked about how I've been dancing for a really long time, and like my performances and stuff like that. Like I traveled to Jamaica to perform once, and I traveled to LA and stuff like that. So I would say that pick the UC, or like especially for UCs, because they're such personal questions. Pick the questions that you have the most to write about. And one thing that helps with the personal insight questions is like, be a little cheesy about it. Like, the cuter or like the cheesier the story is, the more they're interested, right? Because the prompts that you're writing are to distinguish you from the 5,000 other kids who are applying for the same major, who have the same score as you, have the same GPA as you. So really, the more personal that your story can get, the more interested the reader is. And also, like, you have to think about it, right? It's somebody who's reading over thousands and thousands of applications. If your story doesn't catch their eye in the first 30 seconds, they're not going to read through the rest of your prompt. You have to catch their eye. You have to present something that is interesting or is unique so that they're interested in reading. And then they're going to look further into, oh, like, what extracurriculars did the student do? Like, oh, does their story like corroborate with any of the stuff that they've been working on and things like that. Like, prompts really just come down to, how can you sell yourself without looking like you're just making a list and like bragging, but also like something that like is enhancing your, like, what you're good at.
All right, yeah, definitely. So a personal question for me is, so we all go through our like ups and downs in life. We all this may be personal. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I was wondering if you could like give advice about someone who's like currently at a low period at their life and like deciding, should I continue like on this journey or not? What would you tell them?
So I did run into a situation like that my sophomore year. The leadership teacher that I was under was extremely difficult. She was very like, she demanded a lot out of you. And that was a point where I had just taken my first AP class and I was in a sport and I was all over the place. And I was really like hesitant to go on like with the leadership class, just because it was pretty much draining like all of the energy out of me. And I remember like talking to my parents about it and talking to my counselor about it, like, okay, what do I do? And then like I don't want to go on anymore, like I'm not motivated to participate in that class anymore. And I think if you're facing a situation like that where you're in a class that, isn't helping you, or like, you know like is harming you more than helping you, I would say step away from that situation. Your mental health is extremely important in high school, especially because you're growing up. Like that's your time to become like a strong person, like a stable student, especially going into college where everything is much harder and much more stressful. If you're thinking about, okay, should I go on and stuff, I would get help, like, from anybody that you trust that's close to you. um, Hopefully it's like an adult that can help you, but even if it's like a sibling that you can confide in or a close friend that could help you, I think it's really, really important. If you have any issues or you're confused about anything, you should talk to somebody about it. Your counselors at school are a good idea. I know Milpitas High School has the Cassie counselors that are available to talk about any like non-academic issues if you want to. Um, But do things that make you happy. If something is stressing you out too much, it's okay to drop it, because you're always going to find something that's more interesting to you and that's going to make you a happier person.
Definitely. So one question we had in the chat was, do you have any productivity tips or lessons / regrets from high school?
I have a lot of regrets from high school about procrastination. It's every student goes through it. They're like, oh, I'm just gonna do it at the last minute. And the thing that I think hurt me the most is that I got by on minimal effort. Like, I was lucky that turning in something at the last minute gave me a good grade when it didn't give somebody else a good grade. So I think that um, prior making a schedule, a list, anything like a planner. Like, I keep a bullet journal to help me prioritize. But even if you're like writing down on a scrap of paper, okay, this is what is the biggest priority. This is what I need to work on first. Like, it helps keep you a little bit focused. And like, saying no to fun things is hard, but sometimes it's necessary. Like, I know that like all your friends are like going to watch a movie or something, but if you have a test the next day, you should be inside studying for your test. You can always hang out with people later. And that was always something that I was afraid of. Like, if I keep saying no to my friends, like, they're not going to be my friends anymore. That's not true. Like, if you have a good relationship with the people that you surround yourself with, they're going to understand that, they're not always the priority. The academics are a priority. But I would say, like, even if you have a lot going on, take breaks to do something fun. Like, study for 2 hours and then watch YouTube videos for half an hour or something, or listen to music, or go for a jog or something like that. Just so you're like not too stressed, but you're also staying on task when you need to.
All right, so another one we had from Rebecca in the chat was, hello, I'm considering becoming a political science major. As a political science major yourself, how can I make my interest in politics shine in college apps?
So I would recommend doing a lot of like leadership workshops. Those are definitely always good things. Like Junior State of America is a very good program that helps political science students, because they offer courses at like Georgetown and stuff like that. And if you're not looking into that, I would say picking prompts that you can talk about how you've like used your major like to help you. So like the impact in the community prompt on the UC application, if you did something political wise, it would be a really good time to talk about that. Like, working with a candidate for something, or volunteering, or something as simple as, oh, I was helping the ballots at the primary election. Like, something like that really helps. And then I would like bring it up, like mention that you're stepping outside of your comfort zone and you're going into a major that's, very different from the people around you. And it is, political science is a very out of the box major. Like, you have to be super invested in order to get through it, because there's no like real answer to whatever you're going into, right? Like, it's a completely opinion based major. I would say that do like community service that's still nonpartisan but is politically related, or like government related. Working, like, finding internships in high school is sometimes a bit hard, but if you look, like, a lot of times, like, the Capitol building is asking for help, even if it's something like filing papers. Like, you're in the experience, you're in the setting that you want to be, and that's how you're gonna like find connections to move on.
All right, yeah, definitely. So that's all the questions I have. If anyone has any other questions, type it in the chat right now. So yeah, I'll give you guys like a minute or like 30 seconds. But yeah, we just wanted to say thank you again from the bottom of our hearts from SAMP. We really appreciate you coming out today, talking about yourself, and like saying a lot of personal stuff and making sure kids know about like college and everything. And yeah, thank you again. Just a quick question. Is it okay if we put this on YouTube and everything? Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
All right.
I also wanted to say like what you guys are doing, I think is really helpful. Especially like because you have such a diverse like group of speakers. Like it's always helpful to see somebody else going through something that you want to go through in high school. So I think this is a really good idea. Like especially like for incoming high school students who like are probably going to be at home on their computer learning. I think
Mm,
this is a good way for them to kind of like dip their toe into the pool of possibilities. So I think it's a really good idea.
yeah, like we're always trying to make sure like our community knows we're here with them and always making sure that we got them and everything. Yeah, thank you for that. But for right now, we just want to say thank you again. And yeah, we're gonna end the meeting now. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.